Welcome back to another episode of CFO Chronicles. We are joined by an incredible guest today who has an amazing story to share. We get into what it means to serve others and the work that goes beyond what it is you're doing and the ripple effect that's created. We also dive into her story of going from prison to profits, being wrongfully accused, serving multiple years in prison, and building a seven-figure firm, starting from inside prison walls. Check out the episode. Let me know your thoughts. Enjoy. I've had the pleasure of seeing this guest speak live at a recent event. Had the pleasure of meeting this guest last year. So got to meet our guest twice now in person. But before getting in and introducing who our guest is, I do want to give a massive shout out to our sponsors over at Universal Accounting. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show, everything you guys do, supporting us. If you are looking to build the premier accounting firm, check out Universal Accounting. They have amazing resources and they will put you on the right path to build your six, seven-figure firm. To our guest, Dr. Patience Rose. Thank you so much for coming on the show, taking the time out of your day. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you. You had an amazing keynote at GrowCon a couple weeks ago, and I'm so excited for our guest to hear a little bit more about your story.
Oh, well, thank you so much for inviting me. I was just kind of surprised and excited, to be here with you, James. And I just think that, you are such an amazing person. I enjoyed you as well on the stage and been diving into your book, and I'm excited about that too. And what you're doing over there at Nine to Media. And I also am a big fan of Universal because a good part of my training comes from them. And my mentor, who is the president of the school, Roger Connect. I want to give a shout out to him because he is just, if I can say this any other way, I would, but he is a hands-on, all-in, coach. And I really do appreciate him. Most of the success that we've had in the last 2 years has been a good portion of it attributed to what it is that he's poured into us in our business mastery group, as well as in the courses that are available at Universal. So I just had to say that because I really am a fan.
Absolutely. Yeah. We love sharing the love for Roger and the team at Universal. They're great.
Yeah.
Patience, tell me a little bit about how you got started in this industry. This is a question I've been asking guests as of late. Did you know growing up, running around on the schoolyard that you wanted to be working with numbers all day, every day, or how did you get, to where you are now into this industry?
Okay, so this is a serious ride. So let's just take me back to Ralph Bunch Elementary School. Okay, so I was really good in math. I was just very, very good in math, but I never thought that in my wildest dreams I would be an accountant. I thought that was something for other people, and it wasn't so much that you know my view of accountants was something very, very different or rosy or anything like that. I knew what they did, and I kind of liked what they did, but I just didn't see me doing that. I saw me being a teacher, which I did do, by the way, and I taught school. I taught preschool. I taught special needs. I taught gifted kids. I did all of that. But my love for numbers took me into very different places. So when I went to high school, I also went to college. I was a pretty bright kid, and I was able to start college in the 10th grade. And I took several classes. Half day, I was in the college environment, and the other half, I was at the regular school environment. When I was like, I don't know, maybe 16, I graduated high school. But my mother made me keep going because she said that I had to be able to socialize. And so I had to go to school every day, even though I had a diploma already, to socialize in a classroom environment with students my age. So that was fine. But I also went to college, at the same time. Well, at some point, I graduated earlier than what she thought. She let me, come on out, and I did go ahead to the college campus. And when I went to the college campus, I found myself having to work because I needed to be able to support myself. So I had a job at Six Flags. And what did I do there? I was a ticket taker. What did I do? I counted $20,000 a day. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And I never was over and I was never under. And that was kind of a metric, okay, because there were not very many people that could say the same thing. People who were older than me, because I was one of the youngest ones on the crew, they were always, a penny, two pennies, whatever it was. And we were doing most things in cash back then. Now everybody's paying with stuff with cards, so it makes it a lot easier. But back then, everyone was coming through with cash. And so they would always put me on the line where it was, if a person had all cash, that was my line because I was accurate,
Crazy.
and I still didn't get it. Okay. I went on and taught school and did a whole thing, and at some point, as I was teaching school, I started opening schools for special needs kids. And so I had my own, and I was opening for other people. And I had that side, that part of my life. I taught college. I was a dean of the university, did all of this stuff, but it never clicked. And then I had what was called my next 50 plan, my next 50 years. So my next 50 years included me becoming something in business. I just had this thought, I'll go get an MBA. And that's what I did. I got the MBA, and I was really enamored with the accounting, economics, and financial and management accounting side of the MBA. I love the business law too, and I did really well over there. And I was a business mogul by the time I went to school. So it was, I was already a CEO. I had been a serial entrepreneur. I had awards up to yin yang for all of what I had done to that point. But it never clicked that this little niche of accounting was an area for me until I realized that, okay, I could do, all of these things that other people who had doctorate degrees in data analytics could do. And I did most of it in my head. That's when something said, oh, wait a minute. Okay, there's something going on in there that I need to really, kind of focus in on. And when my clients started coming to me with the questions, whether it was a tax question or an accounting question or a bookkeeping question, and they had issues that they were facing in their business, they weren't profitable. And I could see why. I mean, it was just blaring at me. And I'm saying, okay, this is what we need to do. At some point I said, okay, I need to go and get more training so that I can really do something with this. So that's how I got to, the accounting space. I still continue to be an advisor. I'm a value builder advisor, certified. I'm a life plan strategic advisor, but where I really shined is where I did the business plans and benchmarking and all of those things, James. And it was quite interesting because the clients saw results, when they sold the company, when they, passed it down to their kids, and that's what made me understand that this is a space I needed to be in.
That's amazing. It's such a superpower how you're able to look at a business or the numbers and it jumps out and it's the answer's so easily, available in front of you. That's why everyone needs an advisor and that fractional CFO and someone in their corner if they're running a business. I feel blessed to be working with everyone in this space. Otherwise, I would probably be like everyone else thinking, oh, this is another expense that, I don't know if I need it. But being on this side of the coin, I realize how valuable it is and having that strategic partner who can just say, no, this is exactly where we need to go. There's no emotion about this. This is what the data says.
Right. The
Yeah.
numbers say this. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand what you think and what you want, but the numbers are saying this and they're screaming at us. So we need to do something about the numbers. Either we need to push them further because they're pushing you in a certain direction, or we need to pull back because based on what the numbers are saying, you're scaling too fast. You're not going to be able to sustain this,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's so important to have that person. And I'll tell you how for in my life, how real this got is when I was able to double, triple, and then quadruple my own revenues year after year after year based on looking at the trends in my own business. I'm not even talking about what I was able to see in my industry. Okay, I'm just saying, looking at the numbers and saying, okay, if we tweak this one thing, or if we scale in this way, then, this will change things for us. And I mean, we're 7 years young, and we actually have done some amazing things for a nonprofit on the nonprofit side. Our for-profit is serving our nonprofit because it does all the tax returns and it does the CFO work for people who are in our for-profit, I mean, our nonprofit membership. So we created a whole business to serve the other business because the numbers were that important.
That's so cool. That's so good. Tell me a little bit about some of your maybe the success stories that stand out to you the most that you're the most proud of. Maybe for your clients. Like what is some of the work where you've been able to sit down and maybe you've transformed a business that was heading right into the ground or I don't want to answer your question for, I don't want to answer the question for you. What's something that you're very proud of that you've been able to help your clients out with based off of your knowledge and what your team has been able to do?
Good question. I tell my clients all the time, I stole this from Roger, my success is your success. Okay. Your success is my success. But I have a particular way that I coach. And one of the things that, you bring to advisory is, your style or your personality. And I have an I do it, we do it, you do it system. Okay, period. I open up my books. I open up my annals, if I can say that. I have annual reports from, year over year, and I want them to see what it is that I did, how I did it, where I started, the mistakes I made. Then they're looking, they're paying attention to what it is that I'm saying. Then at that point, I want us to get in there, and I'm under that rock with them. I don't know if you've been to our website, but we've got on my personal website, I have this, rock with me under there and my cartoon person and the other person under there on the other side. And we're, trying to get this rock up, up into the place where it goes. And we're really in there doing it together. Okay. I mean, I have action items just like you have action items. And then on the other side of that, now I'm standing watching you do it. I'm not going to sit there and watch you just make a mistake. I'm going to say something if I see something, but at the most important thing is I need to let you learn some of these lessons, and make sure that it's what you want, that the fit is what you want, so that when you do have the success, you can say, oh, you know what? I did that. Okay. I actually made these level up movements that my coach talked about and I did it. So with that said, I have a lot of these little stories, one such story where I have a client who she started a literacy program, and she was also working her everyday job. And it's like, okay, I don't want you to be beholding to the paycheck. I need you to understand when it's time to leave. And that's a hard thing for people who are subsidizing their ideas with their business every day, the job that they're doing, their W-2. And so with her, she was able to learn a few things. We did the value builder with her. We also worked through some, complex concepts of helping her to understand, mapping her business and everything that she needed to do in that moment. And within just a few months, she got a contract from a school district to take her program live in their school district, which I believe changed her entire trajectory. Okay, because at that point she could make an informed decision because she had the metrics, she had the numbers, she had everything to support. This is what my company can do for you, school district, not just for you, one student at a
Yeah.
time. And what she had inside of her, I believe, was for the masses. It was not for one student at a time or one parent at a time. She needed to be able to have an effect on larger amounts of people. And we were able to do that because of the coaching, And another such incident was when we had a person who was a former professional athlete, and we were able to take him from 5 million to 12 million in 90 days. That's like a
I
crazy.
think that's good.
Right. But he followed the instructions,
Yeah.
followed the instructions. So looking at these, two very different things, right?
Yeah.
She was a small little entity who was able to raise up and serve now an entire community because she had a program that was entering the school district. And here he had a business that he was already doing really well, but he still needed to get his revenues up and get his the value of his company up so that he could sell it and get the 10x or keep it and pass it down. You're chairman of the board one day, whatever his idea was. But yeah, that's it's a real thing, James, when you have an effect on a person's company and their, you know, audience, whoever their target is, And so one last one. I'm working with a 73-year-old, I believe she's 73, business owner who went to business school years and years and years and years and years ago. Okay. And she retired and decided that she wanted to put something into the market. And she had a specific area that she wanted to serve. And we started working on it. And she was trusting me with her retirement money. Okay. Because she was paying for her coaching out of her retirement and she invested a good portion of it. And we did really, really well, only to get to a certain point and find out she could not use what she thought she was going to use for her product. And it was like, it seemed that all was lost. Okay. Well, the good news is not only was all not lost, okay, but she was able to this year get a $65,000 grant to turn her chemically based product into all natural, which is where we were really wanting to go anyway. And now she'll be getting a monograph or what is, FDA approval for all intents and purposes to be able to put that product into market. And she'll be able to do it this year. Okay. Which is what we were going for. And so I am so excited for her because everything that she worked towards, she has now gotten that money from a college, a university that's gotten behind her saying, we're going to ride alongside of you with this to help you get this all the way to commercialization. And so that is an amazing, amazing story because this says that, she could have quit, but quitting is a thief. It robs you of your potential. And she could have said, you know what, I've done everything I could do. It's not likely that we're going to be able to get this to market. She kept coming to her meetings and I kept pouring into her saying, no, this is going to happen. It's going to happen, And so when she contacted me, said, screaming in the phone. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so awesome. It's just a test of, her resilience, but also the ability to just stick to something, with the right guidance, with the right advisory, sticking to something and seeing it all the way through so that you can get on the other side of it what it is that's going to serve the market.
There's so much success there, but I couldn't help but think of the ripple effect and how many ripples have taken
Mm,
place from you and your team at its
yeah.
very core, helping people understand their numbers.
Yes.
And you speak about your client who not only were they, hey, it's not just helping out one student at a school, or it's not just one school, it's the entire district. Well, how many students' lives were positively impacted from that, that then rippled into their family and siblings and friends, and just from understanding numbers to get that opportunity? And
Oh,
the
it's
other
amazing.
products in the business, it is wild. And I'm always trying to remind my team and what we're doing as well is there so much more to it than maybe what it seems like in the day-to-day stuff. Like the ripple effect is very real, and it's so cool to
Yeah.
hear all the success that you're bringing to your clients and just how that continues to. I just I always picture the visual of throwing a boulder into the middle of a lake and just seeing
Right. And
the ripple.
seeing, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm there with you. Because I'm in that way, I'm visual. Okay.
Yeah. Patience, you mentioned something really great there. Never quitting is quitting is the thief. Um, or I mean, you can even say comparison is a thief of joy. Quitting any of them is a thief. Um, you have a very cool story that you shared at GrowCon from stage that I
Mhm.
thought was really moving about not quitting because I can only imagine, and if you're open to talking about it, if you're not,
Oh,
please let me
absolutely.
know.
You know what? I'm an open book here, so
Okay,
you've got
perfect.
me. Okay.
Because I'll let you share the story, but I feel like it would have been really easy to quit after what you experienced, and you haven't, and you've built an extremely successful company, extremely inspiring and motivating to listen to. And I would love for you to share a little bit of that story with the listeners of how you didn't quit and how you turned that experience now into, I mean, an extremely successful company and I mean, you're just amazing at what you do. So if you would, I'll pass the mic to you to share a little bit of that
Sure,
story.
absolutely. Oh no, you know what, I tell people all the time that a lot of times, we have things that we have happen in our life and we think that those things are the end. Okay. It's like, okay, this is the end of me, end of my family. I'm never gonna, be able to overcome, or for that matter, even if I do, it's going to be so difficult. I'm only going to barely get, certain things done. But it was interesting. I shared it the way that I shared it, at every place where I shared it, is that one day I got one of those FBI knocks at the door, and I chose to let them in, okay, and I chose to sit down and talk to them because I thought that I was helping, that the information that they were garnering from me was, information that was needed. I had no idea I was the target, that I was the person they were coming for,
Wow.
and that a few weeks later, that they would be coming through my house with, literally guns and lights and all of this stuff, walking through my beautiful 10,000 square foot house that I had at the time. And I was just like, oh my God, in front of my kids, okay, in front of my husband. And I was just so totally floored with, what the reason was that they were there. I mean, I thought I knew what the reason was, but later on I found out that there was a lot of other things attached to it. But it ended up being that I had a 5 year sentence, that I chose to go that road and not go the road of, deciding to fight the US government and trying to make my way through this, because it was, by advisement of my legal team, this would not be a good idea. Most people do not win, and you'll end up with more, time, okay, if you go that route. And so I just chose to not do that. And instead, I had a post-conviction option attorney who told me, we will make this all go away. But if you do that, this is what the result of that will be. And these are the amount of people that they're going to probably go after if we do what it is that we can do, to show your innocence. You've got the little old lady that bought a house from you. You got this, you got that, all of these things, and I'm like, okay, all right. But if you go ahead and do this, we're coming for you. We're going to get you out. Well, that didn't happen either. Okay. So I was there for almost the entire 5 years, except the small amount of time, because it was federal, that I got for good behavior. And in year 4.5 is when it was revealed that I shouldn't have been there. Okay. That information was, revealed, not just, I mean, outside of, not inside. On the inside, I didn't have any clue what was going on the outside, but I got the notice, from my husband. He says, listen, this is what's happening, and this is what, I have been told, and this is what is being requested. And I'm sitting here going, okay, I've almost served all 5 of these years, you know. But the interesting thing is that I went in there with a different attitude. That year 4.5, it came way late, okay, for me to just be sitting around waiting for somebody to come and get me out. Day one, I had a plan. I turned a piece of paper into what I called my iPad. Okay, I folded it into little spaces, and I had something written in every space, just like I had my little, icons on my iPad. I used that to manage my livelihood inside of there, which essentially was me creating the ability to help others understand what their next was going to be. So I began coaching from inside of there. I helped people start businesses inside of there. I actually was not supposed to practice anything that was my craft before I went to prison. And I did exactly the opposite, hoping that I didn't get in trouble, because I did music therapy from in there. I taught nutrition classes from in there. It was just amazing. And every day I had my full on plan for what was going to happen when I left. In other words, I had a plan for how many days I was going to be out before I got, gainful employment, when I was going to actually start the next company, when I was going to launch the paperwork for my 501(c)(3). I mean, it was like down to a science. I even created several trusts while I was there to make sure that I had places to put things. Okay.
Crazy.
And I had people that participated on the outside to make sure that nothing fell to the ground. It's like, okay, when I get out of here, these are the things that need to happen. And 4 days after, I was in the halfway house, but I went to work every day. But where I worked, I was a strategic advisor, researcher, strategic planner, business strategist for the CEO of a company. Okay, working from her office, and and after I was done doing her work, she allowed me to do my work with my company. So I got an opportunity to see clients. I got an opportunity to set up, the companies in the manner that they needed to be set up. I had an opportunity to weigh in on what was going on there and get them a retention schedule and help them with some things that needed to be corrected. They had a wonderful accountant, wonderful bookkeeper, but they had some things that were still a little out of order. And so I was able to help with them, doing everything. We had a little back office of students, interns that came in and assisted. But then I also was able to run my company. And interestingly enough, we did very, very well that first year. We did even better the next year because we doubled our revenues. Year three, we actually tripled the revenues, and the revenues don't really matter for me as much as it is that I had more money to work with to serve people, because we generally, whatever we made, we gave almost that same amount back in scholarships and donations and grants, and helping businesses get started. $15,000 worth of equipment to one business to get them started. I mean, it was just an amazing structure to be in, and I never thought about the barriers. The barriers were there before I left because they had me scared to life about not being able to get in a place to stay, because of having a background, not being able to get your credit. You're not going to be able to get a bank account at first. You're going to have this, you're going to have that. And I had the mindset of watch me. It was like, I got to do this because I have to show someone else that it's possible. If I don't do it, there are people coming behind me that will look at this and say it's not possible. So I needed that momentum and that push to say this is what's possible. And my faith was very strong. I believed that I had superpowers, okay. And I had a wingman, okay. And based on that, it was just an amazing, amazing time to watch things come into fruition, and not without the challenges. Because let me tell you, there were a couple times I thought I was going to get in a lot of trouble because I had asked for permission to do things, and I did what I said I was going to do, but it made me 5 minutes late coming back, okay, or 10 minutes late, and people were getting sent back to prison for the stuff that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, okay, you too many write-ups, you go back, and I was so concerned. And I remember one time I missed the bus, and I was like, oh gosh, I had to walk, and I had nobody to come pick me up. I got lost because I didn't know how to get from one place to the other because I had never used the bus system. So it was so many challenges, like little things like that. But the thing is those little things pale in comparison to the result. I tell people all the time, you can argue with me, but you cannot argue with my result. And at the end of the day, results are irrefutable, and I look at that time now and say, I am so grateful that I did not have the mindset to settle for what other people said would be my end, or even, would be a challenge. Instead, I looked at it and said, okay, I've got here, here, and here that I can go. All right, what are the odds of this? What are the odds of the numbers? Okay, and let me see exactly the path. And I even developed the system that we call the backwards business planning system, because in that system, we look at the end result and we course our path back to day one. That's how I built this company. That's how I actually became successful after prison, by looking at the end result. That's how I graduated, with my last master's degree as a valedictorian of my class, because I looked at the end result and I coursed my path back to day one. I had to have that mindset that, okay, this is what I want. And in order to get there, there's a path. And let me look at how that path needs to be coursed so that I'm successful at making sure that I attain this thing.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Patience. It's truly inspiring. I can't imagine what that must have been like for you and just for how, again, the ripple effects and how many lives you positively impacted while you were there and helping everyone. And that's what really stuck with me during your presentation at GrowCon was
Mhm.
just how much you're serving and helping everyone. And it really sounds like you just put everyone else in front of you to make sure they're set up. And then in return, a byproduct of that is you're taken care of because
Oh,
you're looking
absolutely.
after
That
somebody.
100%. 100%.
So good.
There is no way that I could be experiencing what I'm experiencing now. The ability to have offices in different states and, to live my life. I don't get a vacation very often, but I get a chance to go to Hawaii and serve my clients. And so while I'm there, if I can stick my toes in the water, it works. Okay. But it's a wonderful expose of what God will do, when you trust, when you have faith. And in my life, I have to say that I call that my compass, that is really uh, what I utilize to guide me, in the directions that I go. And peace is my filter. Okay. I know when I have peace, everything's good. So I'm using those things as my tools in my tool shed. Those are my circle of disciplines. And it works for me, and I've seen it work for others too. So I'm excited about that, to have my ability to sow into people. And when I leave this earth, one of the things that I want to be able to leave in here is that resilience, to help somebody know that, hey, it's not over. Your business might not be doing well right now, but there is a path. Okay. And if we look at the end result, we can get back to day one where we can start, and turn it into something that's not just, profitable, but something that'll have a lasting impact.
So good. Patience, I've taken enough of your time here. You've been very gracious with that. But I do have one last question for you.
Sure.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, good question. Good question. I have to say the best piece of advice that I have ever received is to keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles appear, because those are just appearances. Keep moving forward. And, that advice has kept me in a position where I have been able to um, move forward through a lot of adversity. And I tell you, adversity has been my biggest teacher, in a lot of the ways that I have learned things. Adversity has been my biggest teacher. So, you just have to keep moving forward.
I love that. Keep moving forward. It's so simple. It's simple to say, it's harder to do,
Of
but
course.
that's great.
Of course.
Patience, you are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and giving your time to come on this podcast and sharing your story. I can't wait to see you again at the next event.
Yes, I'm
And stay in
excited for it.
touch. And I hope everyone enjoys this episode and engages with it. How can people get in touch with you if they want to continue the conversation or even
Oh,
chat about
sure.
potentially working with you?
Oh, wow. Good question. Thank you. Well, I'm always on LinkedIn. Okay. They can find me, Patience Jackson Rose there. But they can also just go to our website, redworldwide.org. That's the main place that people usually will find me. My email address is admin@redworldwide.org. So pretty simple. And, I look forward to chatting. We are very big on educating. So we have lots of free resources on our webpage. So please go and take advantage of those. And we offer free consultations. So you can also find me at calendly.com/Red Worldwide. So we're everywhere. We're
Perfect.
easy to find. Yes.
Perfect. We'll put some links in the show notes so it's super easy for people to get in touch with you. Again, Patience, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for coming on and sharing an amazing story and all of your successes. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. You have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of CFO Chronicles, The Secrets Behind Success. I hope you found value in today's conversation. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please rate and review the show. It helps others discover the insights we share here. Second, if you're ready to take your business to the next level and attract the high-end clients you deserve, head over to accountingleadsnow.com or click the link in the show notes to book your strategy call. It's time to position yourself as the advisor your clients need. And don't forget, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to stay up to date on what's happening in the world of accounting and financial growth. We've got exciting topics coming up, so stay tuned for the next episode of CFO Chronicles. Until then, keep pushing forward. Your growth is just one strategic move away.
Thanks for listening to CFO Chronicles, the secrets behind success. We hope today's episode provided valuable strategies to help you attract more high-paying clients. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share with fellow professionals. Connect with us on LinkedIn and leave a review or comment to join the conversation. Your feedback helps us bring you the best insights in finance and marketing. Until next time, keep striving for success and unlocking your business's potential.